Hello,
Yo, yo,
hello. Looks like
yo.
we are now live. Nate,
What's up,
Brian, thank you so
everybody?
much for joining. Everybody who's online for our first live stream. I'm not sure who is here except for our closest friends because we haven't told anybody about this. At the same time, though, this is an exciting moment, gentlemen. I mean, we've talked about running a podcast. We've talked about making some more live content. We've talked even about making a media network at one point. And Nate, we kind of fooled around with the digital marketing podcast thing of sorts that is all sorts of cringe if you look back now. And you guys had a podcast back in the day. So anyway,
Yeah.
just want to get this
What's
kick started here. And yeah, here, how
what?
you guys doing today so
Yeah.
far?
What's funny is the emojis did not translate over to the titles.
Oh, sorry about that, Nate. That's
At
why
least
I was
not on
asking. Is it different for
not on
each?
Twitter though. So yeah,
All right.
Restream has its I'm still really excited about the software. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. It didn't translate over to YouTube either, so I don't know if emojis are going to be the perfect way to do it. But yeah, I'm doing good. It's a little chilly over here in northeastern Ohio, but I've got my coffee, and so we're staying awake after yesterday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. Hope everybody, I'm not gonna make any April Fool's jokes on this
So
on this
you can't
live.
lie to me,
So
man. There's no
um,
way
I
you
ain't
had
lying.
to have fallen for an April Fool's
Uh,
joke.
here's here's a good joke. Cardano is really good.
Brian, this is a good segue, man. How are you doing?
No, I'm
Yeah,
just playing.
well,
I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I don't want to get into Cardano with Brian. Okay.
yeah,
Not yet. Not this. Let's just get started. Okay. But it's my son's birthday today. He's 4 years
Oh
old, and
wow,
so
that's
excited to
beautiful.
be excited to have him. He's exactly like me in a lot of ways, and so yeah, it was funny. But so it's his birthday today, and so I'm excited to talk about crypto, talk about the past couple of days, and especially talk about yesterday because that was fun. Watching everything burn. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about that today. What's up with you guys, Brian? Let's see, you're in the murder addict where you're about to
dude.
murder a family.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just got new floors in my home, and so this is not a murder attic. This is my in-laws' attic, and so yeah, honestly, I thought that the April Fool's joke was this live, but I'm glad that we started at least 2 hours after we wanted to. I mean, I thought that
Yeah.
Nate was pulling an April Fool's joke with actually saying that he'll show up, but
Yeah, well, we were
eventually
actually in
eventually
Restream
he
for a
did.
while before you joined in. We were concerned about whether we should even have you on here or not.
Goodness. Dude, Joe Rogan cannot function without his Jamie, dude.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
I'm
Jamie's
I'm the
not in the
Jamie.
can. Jamie barely is in there. All right. Plus, I'm
Dude,
the
but
one
he's
that's
in there.
controlling everything here. You're not even controlling it. All right.
Dude, I'm Jamie in spirit.
Yeah, I can just go boop, and now he's gone.
Wow,
I
wow,
don't know
you
why I
have so much
imagine
power.
Nate with a Thanos
Dude,
glove, just
I will.
snapping his finger,
I
and
will
Brian's
control
gone.
you, bro. Yeah, I am Thanos in this
I am
situation, so do not
inevitable.
test me, man.
Mr. Spickard, I don't feel too good, sir. Oh man.
Oh,
But yeah,
that's
Because so
funny.
Andy,
Nate,
I want to hear about you, dude.
yeah, well, you know what? I would say that seeing the craziness. I mean, I'm still a bit shocked at the Ronin hack. We'll definitely get into that, but to think about the just gnarly numbers of crypto. Like I've been working on a project with the data project. I'm excited to share more information about that. But part of that was looking at the history of crypto, and I was looking at some articles from 2019, and to think about the entire crypto industry wasn't as big as as what some projects are nowadays. And to imagine that Ethereum is now in the hundreds of billions, Bitcoin a trillion plus, and we've gone from futters saying how crypto is just a silly little game to where someone was able to hack $500 million. It it's mind blowing to me to think about how the industry has grown and changed, and there's a lot of great things that have happened, and there's also a lot of risks that are still out here. So how I'm doing? Well, between thinking about brothers and sisters in Ukraine who are fighting for defending themselves and their lives and their land, and thinking about how in crypto we finally are at that point that the world is taking it seriously. In Europe, they just They just ran an anti-money laundering bill that essentially makes it to where anyone who sends $1,000 or more in a certain way in crypto has to have anti-money laundering regulation behind it. Unfortunately, one of the first steps to full-on Big Brother type is not censoring, but people monitoring everything we do. So it's an ups and a down, Brian. At the same time, though, what I'm excited about is to be here and be talking about these things. I think finding a space online where there can be that blend of innovative technology such as cryptocurrency and blockchain. And I'm a huge data geek, and so being able to talk about machine learning, artificial intelligence, and big data engineering, and specifically how to make whack loads of money with it. To hear from Nate and to talk about what's happening on the cutting edge of marketing from the perspective of NFTs, gaming, metaverse, and then let's not forget also being able to dive into the tokenomics and how to just crush it between trading and making creative different types of bets inside of crypto. And then Brian, I'm real happy to have you here. I know your journey's kind of been back and forth on to get on camera, to not get on camera. And it's something where I am pretty interested to see how you do here, because you've got a fascinating perspective on marketing, specifically from the creative side, to be able to look at how do you make something that actually connects with the person at the end of the day. Of course, a person is buying something for features and benefits, but you're able to take down the empathy approach and think through why that is. And that's really where the conversions come from. So to have a location where we can talk about how to make money online is basically the point of it. And that's going to be a lot of ways through cryptocurrency, through digital marketing and conversion rate optimization, through creative and design, and all coming together at the end of the day to be able to show, call it remote workers who want to find their dreams online, gentlemen and ladies and people out there that are just like us, where they have a skill that they want to refine, they want to develop, and they know they can make money adding value, but they don't know how. Long answer, I know, but I wanted to squeeze in here at some point why the hell we're doing this, at least from my perspective, because I'm thinking even when people come in and watch, well, what would make us watch? And to be frank, looking at what we have here, I guess I'd be intrigued, but I would love to know, and I would love to hear some of y'all's thoughts about, well, some of the events happening right now. And Nate, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, because I know you're pretty new to the Solana ecosystem as far as the last couple of months. And lately, it sounds like you've been getting pretty excited about that.
Some of them sick, nasty gains, though.
So tell me about, I want to know your journey, though, from going to discovering Solana and then to, I guess, indoctrinating to where now you're quite the enthusiast. What was that experience like?
Well, to go back to like what you were talking about, with this, the whole point of this and why we're doing this, I mean, number one, it's, because we're a monetization machine. We're about monetization. And, I think what a lot of people forget is for a lot of crypto projects right now and a lot of people in blockchain, most projects aren't like making copious amounts of money. And, they're all still basically in the funding round of how everything goes. Like not a lot of people have active working products where they're actually making money off of it. And so I think that we can kind of be a guiding light into that, and how we actually can transform data and transform, because the whole point of marketing is to make you money. I mean, it's to grow your community and in the end, create ways of monetization to be able to grow the business. And so I think that's an important aspect, and I hope we can be a voice between the Moon and Doom boys, who who basically either call the market. Gosh, it's been so annoying. Crypto Twitter, I hate crypto Twitter during like bear markets. It's so fun during bull markets, but like during bear, it's just so annoying. Everyone tries to make jokes where they like say why they're selling other crypto, and they post a chart, but it's inverted. And so like it shows like the arrow is going down, but it's actually going up. And there's all like stupid jokes like that. And to me, I don't think that helps anybody. And a lot of people don't understand and see like what's really going on behind the scenes, in terms of like the actual like algorithmic trading that's going on, and like what we've studied for the past couple of years, and like how the majority of trading is just bots and algorithms. It's not guys just sitting behind their computers like, oh, I'm gonna buy 0.5 Bitcoin, and I'm gonna buy like 0.2 Bitcoin. Like, no, it's not guys doing that. But at the same time, there's a huge thing to be said about retail and how they can get more involved and how that can make a big difference and triggering those algorithms to get the big guys back in and whatnot. But yeah, so in regards to like Solana, I think what really coincidentally, it's funny. I think everyone gets sold on Solana when they first try it for the first time. Like I think going and actually buying something on Solana or putting some Solana in a Phantom wallet and then doing something with it, like blew my mind. Number one, how quick it was, and number two, how cheap it was. Because after you're on ETH for a while and you've paid so much in fees, you start to hurt a little bit on the inside, and you build some thick skin on one end. But I think I think Solana, the base in Solana is really solid in terms of like just what they're trying to do. I think they still have a lot of work to do because I think they're still basically in beta right now, right? I mean, they're not. I don't know the full ins and outs of what's going on with Solana. You'd probably know more than that, but I think that, they're still in beta, and so they're still working on a lot of things. But I just think there's tons of room for growth and upside. I don't think they're like an ETH killer. But I think like coming alongside ETH, I think there can be a lot of things like the fact that Solana NFTs are coming on OpenSea probably this month. I think is going to be a huge game changer because I think that gives us like a clear like view into what it's going to be like to really be meshing ETH and Solana together. And so I think there's a lot of benefits to both ecosystems, even just working together. But so that's really to the extent I've looked into the development side of Solana a little bit. Like I've explored Anchor, and I've just explored like contract launching and stuff like that. I'm not as involved with Rust as you are, and so I don't know as much about the coding parameters and stuff like that, and all the stuff that's involved with launching that. But I would be excited to learn more because it's funny. Most people that I see that start learning Rust, they're originally like JavaScript and whatnot, or they're in ETH, but then they start using Rust and they're like they never go back because it's apparently so much better. And so I hope to be getting more involved in Rust because I think Solana can be super beneficial to learn. And there's not a lot of people that know how to do it. But yeah, I think Solana and Polkadot are definitely two underrated ecosystems. I think that ETH and Bitcoin have like the limelight in terms of what we're seeing, and the majority of infrastructure is built on them. But I'm excited. I don't think that pretty much the top 25 are ever going to go anywhere. And Solana is in that top, and so. But yeah, I like the ecosystem a lot, and the people are great. I've been exploring Solana NFTs a little bit. I've been getting into those more a little bit.
What are you looking at? What are you looking at? People on the edge of their seats trying to figure out. Are you a
The majority I explored yesterday was DeGods. I didn't get in on them, but I was like looking into them yesterday. Like, oh, this seems pretty hot. It seems like a lot of people are getting involved in here, and it's I haven't seen much about Solana NFTs until like the past couple of weeks. And so there's definitely some that are becoming more blue chip and getting higher priced. But overall, I think and it just from the sheer inexpensiveness of them compared to like an ETH NFT, like let's go get on an Azuki right now. Oh, you're looking at like 19 ETH to get in Azuki. I'm really sad I missed out on that drop, and I'm sad I missed out on Elio Trades just did an imposters drop. Sad I missed out on that, but I'm just trying to get you guys into NFTs so you can send them gains, though. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, Nate, one thing that I was thinking about, when you sort of talked about the state of crypto Twitter in a bear market, it's like I think in a bear market, and I think we've seen this over the last several months as we've sort of been that Bitcoin sub 40K range. The tribalism is strong with these ones. And I think much like any other type of social economic community, I think that we're all subject to propaganda and fake news. So like I guess as far as and I'd love to get both of your guys' thoughts on this. Like the real tribalism inside of crypto, to where, the sort of mindset where it may not be conscious, but even subconscious, where there has to be one blockchain to rule them all, or, I've invested into this specific blockchain, and so it needs to be the only one that has to succeed. So I guess Andy, we haven't had you in here for a quick minute, so I'd love to hear your thoughts first on, like, how do we get over that hump of tribalism, to put it in a sort of concise sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that looking at the point of why we do what we do, why are we in this in the first place? Because if we come down to, I don't know, if I take subjects that are real touchy, like war, okay, there's a lot of different perspectives, but most of us don't want, someone to bust our door down and kill our wife. That's just a pretty acceptable thing. Well, if we look at blockchain, we all want to make money, we all want freedom, we all want security. We have different ways we think that we can get there. And so when I look at, I would say that there are certain communities, certain chains that I definitely agree with a lot more. I think that they're doing things either better, or they have a better team behind them to do something. But I also don't think that there's going to be only one chain, no different than in any technology. There's always going to be that 800-pound gorilla, and then a whole ecosystem of other specialized and interesting projects that are around them. Though I would say, to be candid, it's something that I would consider myself a bit of a closet, Bitcoin maxi from the perspective of value. At the same time, though, having something that is a store of value is kind of like, sure, you can have a brick of gold, but I mean, there's a lot more ways to be. We need to be able to transact things. Someone can't carry around a backpack of gold, even if it's got value. And with Bitcoin, to be a store of value, I think is something that's going to be hard to topple. And I can't fathom, to be frank, what it would take to actually replace that. But to build the internet of blockchain, to build the data storage, to be able to put together fast, rapid processing for high throughput infrastructures, or to be able to go down to easy use, or to go into some specialized ecosystem. There's so many different needs out there, and that's part of what I think when it comes to the tribalism and such. If we can get down to those fundamentals on, well, maybe we have a different way of doing things, different transaction speed, different block size. you got the big block versus small block community. Then we did think about the hundreds of millions, the billions that were fought over such concepts. At the end of the day, I think that choose what it is you think makes the most sense, and challenge yourself constantly. And I look at it that way because the fact is things change real quick in this space. I mean, even today I was looking at I was curious, Nate, what you've been seeing on the interoperability side, because I'm seeing the dots connect, quite frankly, even faster than what I anticipated, between having Polkadot beginning to connect and interact more with the Cosmo ecosystem, to see now Solana working with, I forgot which the two projects were, but on Polkadot network. And then on top of that, we already have the wormhole between ETH, where sure, there was a whoopsie in the code that was instantly paid back by the people. So yeah, I wonder, when you see the different tribes and you see the different value offers as you've been looking through NFTs and other digital assets, how do you see the interoperability between them?
I think that what it's going to come down to is, I think there's a sense of tribalism I think it's misplaced in a lot of ways, because I think that, you can want something to succeed without even, without, like a lot of people say, like, oh, diamond handing everything, don't sell your tokens and stuff. And it's like, well, you could just be smart and take profits. It doesn't mean just because you sell the crypto itself doesn't mean that you don't believe in the project, and that just because you're not holding any token doesn't mean that the token's going to die, because you're probably a very small portion of like what it's actually made up of. But in terms of operability, I think it's a really interesting subject to me, because I don't even know the full functionality of it. I've explored the relay chain and how that would all work together. But I think that it opens up a bigger door for each chain to operate on their specialty, right? But I also think it it limits the possibility of large scale, I guess in some ways large scale hacking, because I know that's been a huge problem over the past couple of weeks. It's honestly better that there's not one chain to rule them all. It's better that there's multiple, because they're coded in a lot of different ways. You got a lot of developers working on each of these different chains, and so I think it is better in a lot of ways that there's multiple chains. I don't think there's going to be like hundreds of them, but even if there's like a top 5,
And that's how
you know,
competition works, just supply and
I think
demand.
it's,
People find a
yeah, I
better
think
way.
it's good for the ecosystem, and I think that each chain will have its own specialty. Like I didn't even like how Solana was always called like an ETH killer, and it's like, well, it doesn't have to be. We can just each can be interoperable together and work alongside each other um, on their specialties and like what they're trying to do. I think that they'll all grow together. But yeah, sorry, that's probably not a great answer to the question
Well, no,
because
it's your
I haven't
perspective.
explored it
Though I would
enough.
wonder then from the gaming side, from the creative side, from the NFT side, how do you, because you were just talking with me, remember we had a conversation about Polkadot community or Dot Sama community NFTs versus ETH community NFTs. And there was some distinct differences that we found. And so
Yeah.
let's just go from that angle, perhaps. I'd love to hear your thoughts on when it comes to these different communities, the value of a community, and the way that these communities interact with each other. It's clearly different now. Do you see that, I guess, communities becoming even more displaced, or perhaps do you see them eventually having enough cross-pollination to bring them all up? Yeah, I'm just super fascinated.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that we're still in that place of like when Moon, like we're still in that place of like where everybody's really more involved with like how we're going to make the most money, which, okay, I got it. You don't want to go after a rug pull, and you don't want to go after a project that's just going to screw you over in the end.
We've been
But yeah, I was
there.
doing some research on like the Kusama / dot ecosystem, like for NFTs, and then looking at like the ETH side. And yeah, it seems like they're both very different in a lot of ways. Because I think you have to be, first off, you have to be involved in Kusama to want to buy a Kusama NFT. And the same thing with ETH, right? But when you have like that overarching like market recognition, right? Pretty much everybody in the market probably owns ETH. I don't think I've ever owned any Kusama personally, but I guess because Polkadot, I feel like has been like really honing in on maybe like on that whole idea of interoperability, therefore maybe attracting developers and stuff. That's what would get them really involved with those types of people. So maybe that's the type of people that should be targeted on that side of NFTs. Because I mean, just the reality is, it's like OpenSea and Foundation and stuff like that are going to be are pretty much the larger scale NFT marketplaces, and they're all built on ETH, and everybody uses MetaMask or some sort of ETH wallet for their transactions on that. And so, yeah, the really interesting thing to me is just that I think the types of communities will be different based upon the token itself, potentially, right? But yeah, I think that I think the KSM market NFT market has a lot of work to do, because I was looking at their sites and I'm like, oh gosh, these sites are just.
Well, it's funny because I wonder, you talk about the sites, and that's it's kind of like, as a technical person, we want to focus on the technology. We talk about Polkadot and what it really is as the layer 0. There's years of development ahead of us to really bring out the fullest potential. No different than the years of development required for most major networks. ETH 2.0 has been under construction for almost half a decade. Cardano, yeah, there's some work to do to get things fully on board. And even Solana, it's in beta mode. And so I think a part of it too is kind of like, yeah, different products are in different places, but as an industry, we've got room to grow. But I'd wonder, Brian, because you look a lot at the user experience of people. And Nate, I want to go back to hear some more of your thoughts on you had some interesting other ideas, but Brian, I wonder, when you're looking at the adoption curve of going into different projects, again, ETH versus Sol versus DOT, and looking at, well, how does the user experience from a design standpoint overall affect the market cap or affect the success, the monetary value appreciation of a project? Because I think as technical people, we don't usually quantify that very well because unfortunately it's difficult to quantify. So how do you see that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, when it comes from like the investor's perspective, I mean, everyone wants to, or at least everyone should be looking at, okay, is this company's website, if they've actually released an app or an app beta, like, is the user experience, the user interface, not just competent, but easy to use, I mean, the principle, one of the principles that we always go for in like website creation is don't make me think. Every single project that we look at, from a website design perspective is, how can we make it to where all of the information is easily scannable and, easily, I'm trying to find the word, but easily digestible, right? One of the biggest problems that I see with so many projects is that no one knows what the hell they do, right? And so when it comes to providing that value, that data easily, I think that's something that's super important. So I guess from a mass adoption curve, I do think that there is a very high correlation between how good does your stuff look, how easy is it to use, and how successful is it going to be.
I mean, Nate
Just
just talked about that with Soul. So I wonder, what are some things that you see that projects just aren't doing that well, that's holding them back from being able to produce that better user experience?
yeah, I mean, just one thing is like it it seems like a lot of projects, because they're run by devs or tech leads, that they don't spend a lot of time with actually being patient and really focusing on the details. So
I mean,
like,
time is money, Brian.
yeah, well, that's the thing, right? But we have to look at, okay, what is, good enough and what's perfect. Sometimes good enough is better than perfect, right? Done is better than perfect. But, when I look at a lot of these micro caps and these no cap coins, right? So many of them would easily have a better place in their lane, whether it's, DeFi, gaming, whatever it might be, launch pads. All of them would do themselves a favor, not just now, but in the long term, by just taking a second look at their site. Um, I mean, and this might be getting too into the weeds, but when I see a website that's developed inside Webflow that has, I from a, uh, you know, baby front end developer, mostly UI slash design expertise, when I see the default animations or interactions built in a Webflow site, like they didn't change shit at all, like that irks me, and I
And
can
unfortunately,
tell.
it's not uncommon. I mean, there's so often I've seen that's like, yeah, it's arguable to say what's not a template because even in, come on, what programmer is going to build a blockchain from scratch except for maybe Gavin Wood? And Substrate makes it a lot easier, but even then we still have palettes. And it's interesting to see how it does become difficult to guess bridge that gap on, well, how far do you go from done can be better than perfect at the same time? Sometimes you got to take the done and at least make it better. And I guess I wonder, and I know you're kind of inching your way into the more technical side, but you've got a depth of experience on the design side. Where is it that you see, because you've gotten to interact with us on the tech side, what would be your advice for a technical person to be able to consider, like, okay, well, if I want to maximize how much money I can make by drawing in a better user experience, when should I know I should be taking a more serious look, and how do I substantiate that from your perspective, from a financial standpoint, of course?
Right. I mean, I think that, once you get to a point where, like, I mean, if we just look at one of our own partners, right? So the Imbu network, they're a brand new network that has an amazing utility and use case in regards to decentralizing crowdfunding. Um, they just launched their brand, and then not just their product, but their brand in December, January. Um, and so, for us, it was a thing where, okay, let's get out a solid website, a solid MVP, and of course, the standards might be different for a tech lead versus someone who actually has experience in UI UX design. But when it comes to can you repeat your question? Because I kind of gotten a little bit into the weeds.
It's all
Just
good, man. What I
freaking
want
calm
to
down and
do,
answer the question, bro.
yeah, we're just having a conversation, man. So let's say, because I'm definitely going to lean on the more technical side, especially financial.
Right.
From a raw standpoint, it's got to make a profit, or else paper perspective. And for the sake of survival of everybody, we need to exit. So imagine then, as a design individual, you and I have had a lot of conversations on what makes sense and what doesn't. And so I guess what I'm seeing is, what are the things that you've picked up over the years of being able to find that balance of, like, okay, well, while it'd be fantastic to build some Unreal Engine 5 level graphics inside of an animation, perhaps at some point we just need to get something that's attractive and then
Yeah,
build
for
it up.
sure.
So where would you say, as a designer wanting to speak to the investor financial mindset, what are those points that you see that makes it to where it's a necessity to invest capital into better design?
Right. Absolutely. So I think that if you want to look at just like one singular event where, like, any project can objectively look and be like, hey, okay, so we might need to invest in a new website or expanding the website. Yes, Andy, I do see your messages. When it comes to the actual point that is, I would say once you have a working product. I mean, once you get to the point where you have a test net out and you have a solid foundational community of active people, let's say, 1,000 people, right? Like 1,000 people on Telegram, maybe 500 to 1,000 on Twitter. But you have a working product that people are actually using. At that point, it's a thing where, yeah, now that you're getting user acceptance testing, now that you're getting feedback on how your actual product works, now I think that's the time where, okay, we need to go to a facelift. We actually have to make this, if we want to use a word like this, quote, enterprise ready. Nate, I actually can't see what you just shared. I'm sorry, dude.
It's okay. It was a joke. Just testing out the comments here. I saw a
Okay,
post
great.
by Elizabeth Warren, and I'm like, oh, why does anyone even listen to Elizabeth Warren?
I mean, we
I
totally could drop random tweets on there. I mean, it's a small little bar. Maybe it's just like a summary of the tweet, but I do like the idea, because also, when you were talking about Imbue Network and Sam, that would have been a great opportunity to show a headline there so people can see the spelling of at Imbue Network, and maybe even talk about, if we talk about Sam, or if I talk about somebody else, we can automatically show them. So then a quick little snapshot. Now we've got a great way to reach out to people. The
Right.
19 millionth Bitcoin. Oh, it's gonna be a
Wow.
brutal battle to get the last 2 million. Anyway, so Brian, you're discussing how you have a working product and a functional community. About 1,000 people is how you quantified that. And you know what? I gotta say, that's a good way to put it, because by focusing on the tech first, those first community members, they really like what you're doing. They believe in what you're doing as a project, as a
Right.
company. Even if we get out of the Web3 world for a moment. So that makes it to where, by getting that proof of concept, by getting that feedback loop, now whenever you start investing into marketing or advertising, whether that's sprucing up the user experience of a website, or maybe investing into some type of media, whether it's through social media directly, or maybe it's going to be video, or whatever type of content stream a person might want to go through. So I guess then I wonder, because for sure there's a lot of ideas of what people think are great, but most of them tank. And so then from a user experience standpoint, and specifically getting feedback from a user, what do you think is a way that people can get out of the noise of knowing what's going to likely be the right investment to make into their brands for a better user experience? You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the first thing that came to my mind was don't go through, if you have a project that has, they release their website and then, a year, 2 years down the road, you still haven't updated your website at all, then yeah, that's perhaps the time where, okay, maybe we need to think about overhauling the whole thing. But in terms of projects or companies that have a functional website, and I mean, they might not be at that level where they're at 1,000 community members. They might be far further established. But when it comes to how you can get the most value out of that feedback loop, I don't think it should be a thing where it's like, okay, we got to update the website. Let's just redo absolutely everything. Let's update everything. No, like, you can update sections at a time, guys. Like,
I do wish a lot more people considered that, because you're absolutely right. There's usually a lot to salvage, and it's just like the mental mind, like the idea that, well, we have to change everything, as opposed to thinking about, well, why do we need to change certain things? Because
Right.
maybe some of what we're doing is working.
Yeah, and having, having a more, I guess we'll call it incremental approach to rebuilding your website, rebuilding your UI, your UX. I think it's really a thing where that not only gives you more opportunities for that feedback loop to go around, but that's more opportunities for content. Like, all the time at Monetization Machine, we talk about, a content machine, how content is king and everything. Yeah, so I mean, you should be looking for absolutely every opportunity, not just to let your community know, but to gather feedback from your community. Hey, we just put up a new badass hero animation that's like a whole 3D experience, and then like the preview video pops up and it gives like a bouquet thing, whatever your improvement might be, let your community know and gather feedback from them. And every single time that you make those incremental changes, that's another opportunity for content. That's another touch point for a sales opportunity. And in blockchain, we don't like to think about sales, but that's what it is. Every single piece of content.
Say, man, you're getting a bit sacrilegious now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but that's the point. That's what we're all looking at. That's what we're all looking for. We're looking for. Wow, holy shit. We're looking for that conversion event. Now, the conversion event in Web 2 may have been an add to cart, or it may have been a purchase, a repurchase. But in Web 3, the conversion event is different. It's getting someone to join your Telegram. It's getting someone to interact or get engaged to the point where they're becoming an ambassador. Which, by the way, if we do want to shout out Imbu and Sam, they just launched their ambassador program. It's called Imbu Heroes. So definitely,
Heroes, that's fitting.
Yeah, so we definitely want to give a quick shout out to that, because there's a whole lot of privileges and benefits. They're a great project. Go check them out. But when it comes to that side of things, yeah, the conversion event is different, but it's still a conversion event. There's still an exchange or a mindset change to happen at this stage. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I think it answers everyone's question that ever existed.
Shut the hell up, dude. I'm like,
I was able to check the price of every NFT ever created or that whole deal. My gosh.
They just did a full market analysis.
I'm like, okay, what NFTs am I going to buy today? All right. I'm looking around for a little bit.
Nate, have you ever heard of listening, maybe?
Just over there sweeping the floor while...
I'm over here sweeping floors like it's my job.
Nate, you should listen, bro. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll get a small nugget of value of what I have to say.
I don't have anything to listen to from you, because I've taught you everything you pretty much know. So,
goodness.
Yo, it's interesting to be able to hear this perspective, just because, of course, in where I'm at, I'm pretty close to the action, I guess, and so I'm constantly looking at different projects and breaking down all these analyses. And one of the challenges that does happen to me, where I do my best to stay on the front line as much as possible, is to see, well, what is the perspective of those who are actively building various aspects of Web3. You've been through, at this point, dozens of sites with us, and Web3 world, I mean, we've done about half a dozen at this point. So it's something where I know that, one of the things that we really practice is making sure that we iterate on every single development, every single design, every single video. We shouldn't be the same company 1 month that we were 2 months prior. There's a constant process of transformation. I share that because I've noticed that that's not common. It's desired, and I found there's a lot of places that'll talk about it a whole lot, even down to their culture. But one of the things I'd love to hear both of y'all's commentary on, whoever wants to hop in, I'd love to hear. But what is it that makes the difference between those who talk about making some kind of change in their project? You talked about updates and the flexes. I'm using the word flex, but a way people can kind of communicate. So there's those who are actually doing stuff all the time, those who are talking about doing stuff all the time. What consistencies do you see, and how do you think that people can get more productive overall as project managers?
Nate, I think that's a you question, bro.
Yeah, because it seems like it's typically an operational thing. I mean, in terms of productivity, I think that a project, I think it's mainly the difference between like rugs and actual projects, right? Because I think what we've seen from most projects is that most people have a roadmap and they have a general structure of the way they're gonna set out to do things. But I think it's about just establishing realistic timelines and literally just like working your butt off, like focused determination, as much exponential growth as possible, creating as much efficiency, and tracking everything that's actually going on. Like we've talked about for like our projects that we're working on. It's like, I think what would be a great thing for the crypto market to practice is full transparency of what's happening, even internally, right?
Yeah,
So like creating
transparency.
literal dashboards on the operations within a project, so you can see like, okay, how many projects, or like how many internal projects are going on, how many things are in progress, and when are things actually getting completed. I think that could be useful. A lot of people might get kind of scared about it, but I think if we're moving towards a full like
but this is Web3. I mean, most of what we're doing is different and weird.
And if it's truly a DAO, like truly a DAO, then everyone should be able to see what's going on like inside the project, and there shouldn't be like all this secrecy and whatnot. Because I think people get caught up too with how long they think it takes things to get done. Like if a website is taking like
20 days
for a custom website, right? Like first iteration, I understand like maybe iterations can take a lot of time, right? Because if you do one iteration and then that iteration is just terrible and you have to go back and do it, okay, that can take a minute, especially if there's stuff in the background and stuff that's going on as well. That can take a little bit, right? But if like some like custom front end dev comes in and says like, yeah, it'll take 6 days to create this homepage, it's like, just drop that dude and run the other direction from whatever he is selling, right? Because that is not especially for our first iteration, shouldn't take that long. But I think that
$3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah, well, and I think
bottom of the stack.
These crypto projects need to be treated like almost like a SaaS company, where you need to understand like what's our MRR and like and what's like our daily productivity, right? Like there's just baseline metrics that companies should be understanding as they're building, especially for the higher level. The CEO is going to have like a different set of metrics. Then there's going to be like the project managers, and there's going to be like the individuals working on the projects. But there needs to be a really clear understanding of what's happening each and every day. Like you should understand what's happening internally and be able to move things along. And I think a lot of projects I don't know. I haven't seen too many projects that like really focus on like internal trackings and CRMs and putting systems and processes together that way in order to create efficiency and
Yeah.
transparency for mostly, honestly.
I
But
mean,
what
I
about
can't think of one
you?
that
Yeah.
actually had it to where, I mean, they really had a system down. I found some that do some components impressively internally, but that for sure is a major difference. And I've definitely been on that side of the table on wondering, do we publish everything we do internally as a company? At where do we draw the line? Because something down to, I don't know, employee salary. I think it's something where salaries should be broken down by the position, by the responsibilities, by the deliverable, not by someone's arbitrary geographic location or whatever other types of more Web 2 ways of assessing salaries go. At the same time, though, that's a big leap for companies to make. And I mean, change is difficult for a lot of folks. So to
Yeah.
imagine to go from having a complete black box where you can have, I mean, who enjoys the employee-employer relationship of the employee is trying to make a livable wage. The employer wants to pay as little as possible, nothing preferably, but simultaneously wants to get as much
Right.
work as possible out of the person. It's just sitting on the opposite side of the table. It's not even a Mexican standoff. It's an active assault that that's how relationships within business are usually started. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Alternatively, it's if you're a business, it's like, hey, there's something that there's a piece of value that I'm looking for. Maybe it's a design, Brian, like what you were describing, and Nate. If someone's taken 6 days to get a first wire frame of something that they're allegedly working full time on, yeah, there's something inefficient happening
There's
there.
a problem.
Yeah. That's not
Problem.
normal. Maybe they have a stack, but they need to be better at handling that stack. On the other hand, we can say, okay, we're willing to pay X price for something that meets Y characteristics. We expect these standards, we expect this timeline, and here's the process we'll go through for the vetting. Well, at that point, then it doesn't matter who comes in, whether they're from Silicon Valley or Timbuktu. Like it doesn't matter. It's something where the value is there as a business. The person who's getting work knows what they need to do. They understand what they're signing up for from the beginning, and the business is able to know what to expect in terms of value. And if they don't get along the expectation or the commitments, boom, the person doesn't get paid. That's the risk that the contractor takes because they need to follow through. But these are the kind of systems that, unfortunately, what I see a lot of that is, it's a bit off topic, but kind of a bit of a transition, which is there's still a lot of Web 2 in Web 3. And I think there's a ton of folks that aren't ready to hear that. But it's like, how can we talk about and preach decentralization and this Web 3 culture while simultaneously there are some habits that have been pulled in from the Web 2 world that unfortunately are pretty destructive for the decentralization and acceleration of innovation that we're actually working towards.
I don't think we should look at it necessarily as two different worlds. I think when I look at like Web 2 and Web 3, I look at like Web 3 as kind of an addition, like a gradual like progression of Web 2. Like we're not trying to get Web 2 companies to completely like change everything internally about them, but we're trying to get them to like adapt to a different hierarchy and to implement new technology to make things honestly better for the individual. That's why I like cryptocurrency so much, is since I'm so like I would say I'm the closest libertarian that's not a libertarian in terms of individualistic,
okay.
like, freedom, you keep it down. So that's kind of the way I look at it. I think that naturally there's going to be different not divides in a company, but just the way that like company structures work, because
There's going to be a culture.
they're so based on military they're so based on like military principles, like company and uniform, like how a lot of companies have uniforms and plans and stuff. Like a lot of that terminology is from the Industrial Revolution is like made up of military terminology. And so I think that naturally, you know, whether it's a DAO or not, like part of me wonders how much something can fully be a DAO, you know, because it's like naturally,
It
I
is
mean,
still experimental for
every
sure.
company that's ever tried to just have like no leader and just be like a general like organization with just people in it, somebody naturally arises as the leader. And I think the same thing would happen in DAO. Like I think, yeah, getting rid of terminology like CEO. Those I loved like Elon Musk clip a couple of like months ago where he was talking about like the like CEO and stuff like that. Those are all just like made up positions. Like there's only really like 3 actual positions in a company, like on a tax form, like when you register like a C corp, you know. So I think that there's going to be
Right.
naturally a project lead, and I think that for the information, like when you talk about things like salaries and stuff, I'd say it depends. um I think it's unnecessary to create certain animosities, but at the same time, I think that for the public eye, right, for something like a DAO, most of the people on inside of a DAO will never be as involved in the people that are actually in the company, right? So it's like commenting on a situation um, that has a lot of intricate details and a lot of things happening internally that's happening across the world that happened 10 years ago that you know almost nothing about, that we don't have all the facts for. And so I think the same thing could happen in a lot of ways with a DAO, where it's like there's going to be some people that are not really involved, but they're part of the DAO. But then there's going to be the people like the company lead, the company people that are actually working in the project and actually building the stuff and putting it all
So, man,
together.
interesting. I
Um,
keep hearing a separation. I'd love
but
how you see it, where you've got the people working in the company and the people working in the DAO. Are you referring to the same type of project, the same type of organization, or are you talking a comparison between different places?
Well, I'm referring to, you know, because I think because people can be part of a DAO, right? Even if they're not necessarily working on the project, as far
Sure.
as I understand it, right? And so, you know,
Anybody with
it's,
tokens.
yeah, by getting the token and staking or whatever the metrics are behind that DAO. And so I think that there might be you know, depending on how things work, it's going to be different for every DAO. I say that in respect to the people that are actually involved in actually building the stuff and on the internal meetings and stuff like that. Um, but because I think part of it right now is looking at it as, well, we have a community, we have to keep the community hyped and stuff like that. Everyone's so focused on hype and news and stuff like that and getting that involved, because the reality is 99% of people are working some other full-time job and they're just buying into the token hoping something's going to moon. Um, and
Well,
so yeah.
man, that brings up a good point. Like looking at the chats here, I see Gene is in there, and it's one of those things. It's like, we've been in this space for a little over a year now, and we've learned a hell of a lot. But man, there's a lot to grasp. So for a new person getting into crypto, I mean, I just realized we're probably talking about more
Let me
intermediate
let
to
me put
advanced level
Gene's
stuff.
question up here.
Oh, nice! Look at that.
There's Gene's
There we
question.
go.
Once Jean gets a profile picture too, she'll be able to say hello to everybody. And so it's
You
something
know how
where,
much Gene loves coming on the camera.
yeah. So it's something that I wonder, man. For the newcomers, then let's look at it from their perspective. How is it that they look at different projects? And let's not just think about the investors, let's think about those who are working in crypto. Because within the Rust community, usually Rust developers are not excited to consider crypto opportunities. It's people actually avoid Web3. So yeah, talk to me about from both perspectives.
I guess I don't know how to speak to most of like the Rust community. But to
The
like,
new folks in crypto.
yeah, to like, so to answer like Gene's question, like people who are like new to crypto, what do they need to know about crypto? I think it depends on what your end goal is. But yeah, if you're like a new person into the space and you're wanting to like get involved, I would say it's the same. It's honestly the same with most companies. Like, right, find a project that interests you in some way, um, and because I don't think you need to have a portfolio of like 40 different projects, right? I think that you can find like your projects that you really like. Like I like ETH. You know, that's like my jam. I love the ETH ecosystem and stuff like that. Um, but I also love looking at projects like like Polygon, and I love um, a lot of the gaming and metaverse stuff that's built on ETH and what they're doing. And so that's a niche that I really like. Like I could get into DeFi, or I could get into, traditional finance people are probably going to love DeFi. But I think that, there is a steeper learning curve, I would say, to crypto, because it's an entirely new industry. I mean, comparably looking at like, the .com boom of like the 2000, I think that this is at scale with that, in terms of like just the sheer amount of infrastructure that needs to be built and put into it, but like 10 times bigger, and with a way better like goal in mind at the end. And so most people that I talk to about crypto, when I try and explain it in the simplest way possible, but breaking it down, is like tokens and cryptocurrency. It's just a utility of blockchain itself. So it's better to understand what blockchain actually is and how that works, because then I think you can see how it really applies to how it can make application to stuff, right? Like blockchain was originally created for the medical industry. And so there's a lot of aspects there that can be really improved because of blockchain. But then you think about things like supply chain, and we obviously know a lot about querying and APIs and how blockchain could do a lot of things for that. But for the
I
new
love that perspective, though, man. That why are you getting into it, and then to understand those fundamentals, because you explained how to know, like, what is it that you're interested in. Because at first, I remember we would try to figure out what are the categories of blockchain. Is it like oil and gas and medical and real estate? And it's like, oh wait, this is not good real estate.
Just ask yourself, why do you want to know what cryptocurrency is?
Yeah.
And then just like go exploring from there and do as much research as possible. I don't think everybody needs to know how to code a blockchain.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us as marketers of it to know the technical intricacies of how it works.
I know the features and benefits and whatnot.
But for the newcomer, understand how it works, and don't look at every chart like it's like you understand what's actually going on, and like, oh, it's just it's the prices and TA and stuff. But
I see a flag.
Yeah,
flag.
I see the ascending triangle.
No, say,
sure.
Heiken Ashies are what's gotten me excited lately. I was actually building some back in Kyiv before, everything went down, and I ran away. But it's something where I was amazed to see what with a Heiken Ashie candle and really understanding how they move. You can see pretty far, but that is a lot to swallow when one's first getting in. And I like the approach of starting from the fundamentals of like, well, what is a blockchain? And then seeing, well, what can a blockchain do that interests you? Because at that point, then you're going to find projects that narrow down to that. And that's a much better perspective, because I wish I had that kind of advice in the beginning, where for me, it was more, I've always been a chewing glass kind of guy, to just drink from the fire hose, dive into the fire, whatever type of truism you want to think of. But I think that in general, the three of us are probably in the degen category, just for diving into something as ridiculous as blockchain is, especially given the utter madness that is the standard of the industry in so many ways. And I think as things calm down, it'll also become a bit simpler. Those on-ramps will be less risky. It's not going to be, if you want to participate in your first token generation event, it's going to be $100 damn Ethereum gas fee. Could you imagine if we started
only
crypto
100?
With Solana? Yeah, I know, right? But with like sub penny fees, being able to, I'm almost jealous. Like it's one of those things that as things keep progressing, I think we're going to keep seeing more easier on-ramps.
Yeah, well, we're in development right now, and so it's like, until we get to a place to where like the general populace actually understands how it works, like where you can actually get people like Walmart, who already is getting involved, and some of these bigger names and stuff like that, like it has to be just incredibly simple. But I don't see why anybody would expect that right now, since we're in such a major development phase. Like it's not gonna be simple right now, because most stuff isn't built. It's not put together yet. We're still building it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be simple for a minute, but that's okay. Find your niche, because everybody can make money in their niche. Like if you love gaming, you could probably make a lot of money in gaming if you just focus on like the gaming coins, or if you same with DeFi, or same with just ecosystems or any of that stuff. Like you could probably make money in any of it if you really focused on it. But yeah, we're not at the easy stages yet. but but I think we'll get there. And I think that's where the marketers like us come in, to be able to try and simplify as much of these terms as possible, because the general populace is not developed. General populace is not going to understand technical terms like, what's an EVM, or like, what's a ZK rollup? Like,
what does interoperability actually mean?
Nobody knows. What's the relay chain? Like, how does that work? What's a parachain? Like, nobody understands any of that. If the grandma up the street, like, can understand how it works, that I think we're in a great place. If
when we can talk to Babushka about that for sure, that
tries to figure can figure out, or if Grandpa knows how to use a Bitcoin wallet, we're in a really solid spot at that.
He understands what a mixer is versus having holding your keys versus keeping something on the exchange. Well, this brings up a lot of the pieces. And Brian, here, go ahead, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, in order to, when we think about the stage that we're at right now, kind of in between a bull and a bear, there's potentially a huge bull that's coming up.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially.
I should share my screen.
Yeah, dude, do it.
Go ahead.
But when it comes to where we're at right now, there's going to be a flood of new crypto people that are coming into the industry for the very first time. And so as far as like actionable value for project owners that may be project owners, project founders, whatever you want to call yourselves, like marketing directors, whoever's listening to this, that the actionable value that I can give right now is education. There's going to be an influx of so many new people who don't know what a ZK rollup is. And in fact, the majority of people probably don't need to know what a ZK rollup is. But even more simple terms or concepts like parachains, it's probably going to be more important for people to know what a parachain is, as they're coming into crypto. But when it comes to the real challenges that I find that blockchain projects are going to face here very soon, is just that the same problem that they've faced since Bitcoin dropped. What does it actually do? How does it actually work? And as far as like answering Gene's question directly, like what should those new investors that are coming in know? And Nate, I think that you really hit the hammer on the head as far as what do they not need to know? And I think
they don't need to know everything. That's powerful. That's useful. Brian, you touched on something else. Like I was having a long conversation with one of my prospective clients right now, going over what does it take to scale a community, because they've got a sick technology, and for sure I could see us talking quite a bit about them when we have our next segment, or maybe in the next show, whenever that is, going over news. But it's something where making it easy and fun, making it feel like there's an incentive to be able to engage with the community. It's really the missing piece, and that usually comes down to content. And I found myself explaining concepts that I realized, it really does. There is a gap between building something and being on that technical side versus being brand new in the space. Because I remember feeling so overwhelmed trying to figure out the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. But they're both crypto. What's like that hurt my head for a while. I'm like, well, what is actually the difference? It's okay, there's different code, and one of them has programs and the other one doesn't. But why? Like those, what now are almost obvious, silly, ridiculous questions. It wasn't the case then. And when it comes down to community expansion, I think it's why there's such an importance on the influencer in modern marketing. Because there's these, now that we have direct access, I mean, think about it. We all follow Elon Musk, one of the wealthiest man on the planet, if not the wealthiest man. And we have a constant feed of what homie is up to every single day. That's not normal, historically speaking. The distance between the different aspects of society are changing. And so now to have the engineer being able to talk directly to the community, the investors who are the ones funding the project that the engineer is building, in a lot of ways, that's made things more transparent. It's made them and certain efficiencies have been made, but it's also created new challenges where we need translators. And I think that what's happening now, and one of those biggest benefits of marketing that is intangible, it's tough to see at first, is that there needs to be not just a translator typically to bridge that gap. You've got to have a beautiful user experience and something that is actually enjoyable for people to use. But people also have to know, why are they doing what they're doing? What's the point? And I think being able to have material, whether that's written content in article format, maybe that's going to be micro content like tweets and posts and prefabricated comments with the most commonly asked questions. These what to us would be a pretty standard approach because of our performance ads days. We know we got to have a real strong arsenal of conversion material to split test rapidly, so that way we can optimize as quickly as possible. At the same time, in this space, I think that's not the normal way of looking at things. And it's part of how we can bridge that gap of how to not just help onboard more folks that are newer into crypto. I know Gene doesn't answer the question directly, but more so a continuation of how do we not just help onboard more people into crypto, but how do we help crypto projects onboard more people into their communities? Because then as more projects began to create those more accessible, easier on-ramps to get people excited about their solution. Nate, my first thing I was super excited about was big data. I thought, wow, there's a shit ton of data in blockchain. Ain't nobody really using it. I bet you we could run a bunch of gnarly machine learning systems on it, decentralize that somehow, where so someone can feel comfortable knowing how their data was transformed before it got to them. And I bet there'd be money in that. Well, boom, Gen 2 oracles all of a sudden came into existence. Well, not all of a sudden, after months of painstaking research. At the same time, though, it was a meaty problem. And then to explore the direction of the solution to that, that's really what had me degen just absolutely ape into crypto. So I guess I wonder, when it comes down to looking at things in the perspective of how do we bridge that gap? You've got the builders, let's just call it the project, the blockchain execs, the DAO, whoever you want to call them, the internal. But then you might also have those in the community, those who are learning still, those who are, DYOR, doing their own research. And then in the middle, you've got this crazy group of folks called the influencers. Some of them are just shamelessly shilling whatever it is that they're talking about that day or looking at that day. Others, they have great value, but you know what? They don't have any reach. So I guess I wonder what will bridge that gap, because it looks like that's really where we spend most of our time. And to be frank, that's where I see the less sophistication, the least documentation.
So like you're talking about the gap between like community and like project?
Kind of. And you've got the influencer, the translator in between, whether that's a news source, the one that's blasting out whatever latest updates have happened in crypto, whether that's the actual influential head, the person who made a whack ton of money. Now other people are inspired by that and they listen and they follow and they learn from them. There's usually a middleman between the project and the consumer. So that makes me wonder, what do you guys see are ways that projects can optimize on, and maybe even give an example, because I'm thinking that's a question I can ask every day.
I don't think there 100% needs to be a middleman, but I think that that the leaders themselves need to like at least have an understanding of marketing, and because it's like every CEO should be able to sell, right? Every CEO or every like leader should know like at least the basics of like selling fundamentals, and a project is going to be able to sell itself if it's a good project, number one. So like let's use like Tesla as an example. Tesla doesn't do any marketing. I don't think they've ever spent money on an ad.
Yeah,
right. But Elon Musk knows how to get out in front of people, and he knows how to sell a product. He knows how to do those keynote events, and he knows how to make people laugh, and he's very witty, and people trust him, right? I think that's the whole point of a community, is to build trust, and I think there's a lot of different ways to do that. I don't think it takes a full fundamental understanding of the internals of a product, but you need to be able to sell that product. It needs to have a market, and it needs to be able to be interesting enough, and it needs to be able to solve a problem, right? And like I think, like look at like DEXs, right? Like look at Uniswap solved like the biggest problem that people were having on sexes, on centralized exchanges. I don't like that they're called. I think that's what people call them. Right? It's so weird.
him, but
I don't.
awkward to speak for sure. Dex's
Yeah,
making
I
it
don't like that.
sexes, it's a
Um,
bit uncomfortable.
but yeah, but fundamentally at the core, there needs to be a lot of trust building and transparency in a community and promotion of the product. And yeah, I think like what you were saying, like more owners and project leaders and stuff like that, CEOs if you want to call them, need to get out on camera more. People need to know who they are. There needs to be at least a fundamental, like, what are you trying to do with the product, and how are you making it safe and secure for everybody? Like, if you're not, like, I fundamentally believe that every project should audit, like, should have an audit, like, right off the bat. Like, there should be a code audit before anything. Just like that trust layer audit, so that because as you see projects getting scammed, right, like Ronin, right, man, getting hacked, and so and they're a well-established project, and so yeah, there might be stuff you can't avoid all the times, but I would say that's one fundamental layer.
I mean, the thing that stood out to
something
me,
to do,
man, is
but
that I'm talking about influencers as that trust layer. You're talking about the CEO should be able to sell as that trust layer.
yeah,
It sounds like what we're talking about are just different ways of a
yeah,
trust layer that's introducing a person to it. Because you know what, you were my trust layer in blockchain. I had already looked into it. I had a small bag of Bitcoin and Ethereum floating around, and it was really yourself that I trusted you. I saw some results, and then that let me go a little bit deeper. And then as I saw trust for a project, a trust for a person. So if we're looking at it from a marketing and conversion standpoint, is to be able to look at things from the currency of trust and to find out how to accumulate as much of it as possible.
Yeah, because I don't think influencer marketing can be dicey, because it's like you have to understand why like why you're doing it, and like what's the end goal metric here, right? Because it's like, okay, maybe if you want to do some sort of affiliate thing, like if if your end goal is to maybe get people on your system, right? Maybe there should be some sort of affiliate program to get people on that system, and you can use an influencer for that. But you also have to evaluate what type of people are following this influencer and what type of trust do they have. You can look historically at what kind of trust is there, but just because they trust an influencer doesn't mean they're necessarily going to trust you. And so whatever that thing is that influencer uses to get them in, whether that be like buying your token, getting people to buy your token, which obviously is dicey territory. Like if you have an influencer trying to get people to encourage them to buy your token, that's dicey. But at the same time, yeah, understanding like what the actual goal of using the influencer are, making sure the influencer has the right type of people. Like if I don't know, like if a DeFi project wants to get more people on that platform, are they going to use Floyd Mayweather to do it? I don't think so, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But you might use somebody like Kevin O'Leary.
So what's
or you might
interesting though,
use
man, is
somebody
you're
like,
saying influencer is different than I think. And that's pretty cool. Because an influencer, you're absolutely right. That's going to be like your major folks that we could call them shills. We could call them just, a newscaster. But I'm even thinking of an influencer as, well, somebody of influence. And I know it sounds like overly literal, but like for me, you are an influencer to take crypto more seriously. Now, you yourself maybe don't have like a huge brand or huge following, but you were that in between that was able to introduce me enough to say, okay, I'll look at this thing with a much more serious view than I had previously.
yeah.
My own father spent years trying to get me to look into Bitcoin. Back in 2012, I remember he was talking about this stuff. And yeah, it was something that you were the one that really got to where I stopped, and the timing, of course. But yeah, I say that because it's interesting to see that there are variables that we can control and that we are able to see. And, I just realized that, yeah, I can see the comments on here pretty easily. At least some of them, like, guys. I'm wondering, because this is our first live stream, and we're iterating too. I mean, we're learning as we go, and you can see that we are a done is better than perfect, and we're going to get better with each time. But I'd love to just give Restream a shout out here. What do you guys think about the platform so far and about this stream overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's learning. Like we have all these different setups here, like you can set it up like this.
Oh, that's
where
cool.
You're at
You
the
can turn it
top
to the
and you
side.
can switch it out. I wish it automatically switched based upon like who's talking. I don't think it does.
If they had a switch for that makes sense, because Zoom does that. It'll automatically showcase the speaker.
Yeah, I don't. At least maybe there's a setting that I can do it for that way. But yeah, I do like the program overall. right? So the only thing I don't like about this is it's all the way out to the corners versus like
Don't
this, you
have
can
the
see the
awesome
background
background.
and stuff.
No,
Yeah, you
we
don't
could
have the
even
cool
get to where
background.
we could change that background with like with the season, with like if there's some special event going on. Obviously, if we have when we have AMAs, now we can have a
We can make
graphic
it
made that's got his
cool
styles.
little backgrounds like that.
That's adorable.
Oh
I know,
yes.
right? So cute. Or
Well,
we
dude,
can-
one thing I think we should do, going back to our regular background, is have, and I can have this made easily, but having like social icons, having the actual like topic that we're discussing.
That
Yeah. I
makes
mean, there's
some
a whole
sense.
world of stuff that we can do with
What?
this.
Well, I
I
think
love
that'll be
it.
what the captions are used
Yeah,
for. Like,
yeah.
we're not gonna,
The
like I
topics.
think we should have a moving background like this, right? So like maybe let's get this spaceship flying around.
And
Maybe we get some
animated for sure.
let's get some
Absolutely.
particles in the background or something like that, and just have it to be like a repeatable video, And I think that would be really cool if we had some stuff flying around in the background and
Necessary, for
some
sure.
particles going on here, But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different. There's even some we can promote Ukraine here. We got some Ukrainian backgrounds.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You know?
That looks good, especially with the Ukrainian scarf behind me and the Vyshyvanka. It's yeah, I'm feeling that for sure. So real quick, Nate, you've definitely found a lot of cool tech and everything that we've been doing. And I wonder, because one of the things I see, and I know that you've been through this too, is using a software to be more efficient, to be able to, I guess, make more money faster. Well, but a lot of folks will get concerned on how much they're spending on software. And that's for sure a thing. How do you balance out? Because you have the price you pay an employee and the risks associated with whether they'll make a profit or not. But then you have a price that goes to software. And yeah, I remember it used to be pretty tough for you to I guess, invest in more questionable, like, is it going to really work software? Now I notice you've gotten a lot more experimental. What have you experienced has changed that?
Well, yeah, like you said, you got to get experimental with softwares, and I think you need to, when you come to a software, you need to have a realistic understanding of like what that software is going to be used for, and I think then you have to test it, right? You can't judge a software until you've actually used it to see like if it actually makes your life better and if it actually makes things simpler. You need to have a fundamental understanding of what softwares you are actually using and what maybe you're not using, and if it's 100% necessary, because the softwares, they can add up real quick. And so you gotta be aware of what's going on and what you actually need, but you also can't be scared to test things and to see if it works. Like we've internally gone through how many CRMs, like 6 or 7 CRMs probably. And I know I've used at least 6 or 7 CRMs to really figure out the best CRM that I like.
We're not on HubSpot anymore.
that I felt like, like really unified everything that we were putting together. And so there's a lot of softwares out there, and there's a lot that seem appealing, but it's not going to make sense to get in there and get your hands dirty. Like I think, we were using Zoom for live streams, but like now we're testing out Restream today, and this software is freaking, it's awesome, right? It like makes us feel it's like a real studio almost. We can be literally at different places all over the world, but still have this cool looking background and be able to switch things out here. See, I've been talking and I've been in this little box down here.
Now there's got to be a way that you can have multiple people in there, so that way you got some support on the.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, eventually, it's like, all right, let's have somebody control it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's really tracking how many softwares that you have, and then cutting the crap at the end of basically every month, where it's like, look at how much revenue you've maintained, how much revenue can you attribute to the softwares and stuff that you're using. And if you can't attribute, if you're using, like for Twitter marketing, if you're using some tool like Twitter, I think Tweet Maps or something like that, but that tool doesn't necessarily help you in the end. Like there's maybe a similar functionality on some other software that you're using, well, then just trim it, trim the fat and keep the real meat at the end of every month. It's like the simplest thing, but you're not going to know until you test it. You're not going to be able to test it unless you have data to verify it.
Yeah.
So it's all those concepts.
Oh, man, I'm taking a look at Restream. I know this has turned into like an ad for Restream, and I'm good with that. If a software is good, I want to talk about it. I mean, if a software is terrible, let's talk about that, because I think that we should be able to roast projects while at the same time, build up some products that we like the most and explore. We spend time, we spend money, and we've got a pretty interesting perspective on how technology works. And yeah, I don't see how I can dive, because I'm logged into Restream. I can see us streaming. I can see we've got a 5,000 kilobit bit rate, whatever that means.
Well, this is a live stream, so you're probably not gonna be able to just jump right into it and like be, because this is a stream that was started by me, and so it's probably you're not gonna be able to jump in and start controlling things probably.
Well, they've got to have a way to be able to make it to where other folks can come in and interact, just because we've got to have it to where someone can pop in and do the do the little banners, drop in something interesting, because especially while we're talking, that'd be so cool. That's like, we could be interacting on something and then boom, thing flashes on there. Neither one of us know about it, which makes it to where the reaction is genuine. There's all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah,
You
that's
get the
right.
marketing, the
I'll
title.
look into it and see what other stuff we can do, because the software is super cool. I can tell we'll be using it a lot. I think like $99 a month or something. Totally worth it, honestly, especially if we're doing a lot of streams.
Well, hey, let's start wrapping this up, gentlemen. I appreciate
an hour and 20 minutes. I think is a good enough stream for today.
We gonna have some long ones, Nate. I'm talking 2-3 hours long, because it is something where to find out how can we get to where we can be almost creating like a pulse of the market, of what's happening, not just in different products, different ecosystems, different technologies, but make it to where we can start to have different types of people on the show, where we can talk about things that are going on and really have that dynamic swapping in and out of different personalities. I think it's something that will be pretty cool, especially when there's a full-on assembly line that's able to slice and dice that to where people can tune into the stuff they're interested in because of the clips. It's a concept that I've been working on for about a year, and for sure we've got some room to grow. But yeah, I could see it being something where we'll be pretty comfortable on these longer streams. This is good practice. You've listened to Joe Rogan. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Let's go ahead and finish this up. Nate, I'll let you close it out because I don't know how. Everybody, thank you for watching. Stand with Ukraine.
Until next time. The few people that have watched this first live stream. Yeah, it's been great. Hoping we can do this often. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at least, there will be a live stream chat like this. And so, we'll eventually be uploading the audio like this stuff to Spotify and whatnot. But at the same time, we'll make shorter clips so everybody doesn't have to stick through for the full hour and a half, But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. And until next time, bye for now.